And Abram said, well, but water can put out fire. He's like, oh, great point. We should worship water. He's like, well, yeah, but clouds can hold water. Then we should worship clouds. Abram says, yeah, but clouds are blown by the wind. He says, we should worship the wind. And Abram says, but people can withstand the wind. And Nimrod gets frustrated and says, okay, here's what we're going to do. Logical next step. I'm going to put you in a fire and burn you. And if your God is real, you'll be saved. Does that story sound familiar? It later enters into the book of Daniel with 3 Hebrews. We're going to look at that at the end of the series. So he puts Abram in the fire, and Abram comes out unscathed. And he's like, oh, your God must be God, right? So Abram is sort of known as being this person who bucks the system. In a world where there are many, many gods, Abram sort of has this idea that maybe there's this one, and maybe this one is speaking to me and calling me to be a part of something. Writer Thomas Cahill, in his book, The Gifts of the Jews, which is amazing. And Avram is the Hebrew transliteration. So Avram went to the boldest words in all of literature. They signal a complete departure from everything that has gone before. He went. I mean, how many of you, if you heard a voice outside of you or even inside of you that said, we should pack up everything and move our family somewhere? I mean, can you imagine this conversation when he brings the family in? Sarai, I think we need to move. Okay, where are we going to move? I'm not sure. We're just going to get on the camel and go. And we'll know when we get there. Like, how many of you would sign up for that trip? No, you don't sign up for that trip. And yet Abram does. And what he does by doing this story in the ancient world, where gods were tied to specific geography. And if you cross this boundary, your God was no longer in charge. It was a new God. This God seems to be calling Abraham not from a specific geography, but just wherever. And he says, go. I want you to go. And when you get there, I'll let you know where you are. What Abram does is revolutionary in the idea, is a revolutionary idea because it's something new. Not only in religion, but in humanity. This idea that faith is a journey. I mean, the ancient world saw things cyclically. You're born, you live, you die. You're born, you live, you die. That's the story. Every day's the same. Nothing changes. You worship the gods your ancestors worshipped. You offer the things your ancestors offered. That's what it means. And Abram goes, no, I'm actually not going to do that. I'm going to do this other thing. And this idea that faith is a journey is born in this moment. A thing that lots of people say today, but in its sort of nascent moment when he first goes, like, this is a brand new idea in the world, that faith is about going somewhere. Faith is about moving from one place to the other. Faith is about, and the language we use for that here is, faith is about transformation. It's about being in one spot and over time walking, journeying, transforming into a new person in a new place. Walter Brueggemann, the Old Testament scholar, says, the metaphor of journey or sojourn is a radical one. It is a challenge to the dominant ideologies of our time, which yearn for settlement, security, and placement. Isn't that what we want religion to give us, by the way? Certainty. All the answers so that we can spit them back out at people when they ask us questions. I really used to believe that. Somebody like, well, if you know the Bible so well, what's the answer to this question? Well, the answer is clearly. And what I find now is the answer is usually, that's interesting. We should talk about that. Right? But these are the things we want religion to give us. Don't change anything. Don't move. Don't go anywhere. Give us security. Give us certainty so that what, my grandfather preached in his early days is the same thing I'm still preaching today. Like, that's what we want, right? But the reality is that's not what religion gives us. The life of this family is matched by the way of Yahweh, the God of the Hebrew Bible, who is understood not as a God who settles and dwells, but as a God who sojourns and moves about. This God can't be pinned down to a specific geography. Like, he's our God here, but this God is not God over there, right? This God, she's really powerful over here for us, but when you get over here, nothing. No, this God is bigger than all of that. And since that was a little scholar-ish, I want to give you this beautiful, from Jewish writer Abraham Joshua Heschel. Faith is not clinging to a shrine, but an endless pilgrimage of the heart, audacious longing, burning songs, daring thoughts, an impulse overwhelming the heart, usurping the mind. Those are all a drive toward serving him who rings our hearts like a bell. Faith isn't clinging to a shrine. Faith is an endless journey of the heart. This is what this means. There is no moment when we have it all figured out or when we've done it all and seen it all. Faith is a continual journey. So a couple things about Abram. God promises to bless Abram, right? That sounds like a good deal. If somebody says, I want to bless you, what do you say? Okay, right? Like this seems like a good thing. I mean, you don't reject that. Has anybody ever said bless you when you sneeze? You're like, no, keep your blessing. I don't need it. So he promises to bless Abram. And he says, I'm going to make of you a great nation. I'll bless you. I'll make your name respected. Now, the guy who's being promised to be a great nation is 75 years old. And he has no descendants. He's got a nephew, Lot, who's traveling with them. But it seems like this is very unlikely. The word barak in Hebrew means to bless. And what it really means, because that's sort of an ambiguous word. What does it mean to bless? Because sometimes in the South, we say things like bless their heart, and we don't mean it nicely. Right? You know this, don't you? If you've ever had your heart blessed, it's not nice. So what it means is in this context, it's bestowing power for success, prosperity, and fertility, right? I'm going to bless you so that you have abundance of everything you need. And Abram will be blessed so that Abram and his descendants will be a blessing to the world, right? It's not like, Abram, I'm going to bless you and you're going to take it easy and enjoy life. It's Abram, I'm going to bless you so that through you, this blessing will filter into the world and everybody gets to be transformed by it. Right? Everybody. This is not, God in this is choosing a guy and his family to do something, but he's not choosing this guy and his family exclusively to do something. Right? He's choosing them, inviting them to begin a journey. You will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. Those who curse you, I will curse. All the families of the earth will be blessed because of you. This blessing, it's instrumental, not exclusive. It's not Abraham, you and your family are going to be blessed, and everybody else is just going to have to look at you and go, whew, Abraham, man, dude is blessed. No. You're going to bless the world. And this is a spoiler alert, but Father Abraham had many sons and daughters. Many sons and daughters had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you, so let's all praise the Lord, right? Like, what came from Abram's family? 3 major world religions who are still trying to figure out how to get along, so you can tell we're siblings, right? Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all come from Abram, all trace their roots back to this guy. So you're talking billions and billions of people on the planet feel connected to his story. People who interpret things differently, who have different ideas about who God is and what God does, they all come back to this one guy. And it's because he was invited to be a part of something, not so he could be better than everybody else, not because he was better, because God wanted to begin somewhere, and God thought, I'm going to begin with this family because when I say go, he's going to go. He's going to step into the shadows, step into the unknown, step into the uncertainty. He's going to be willing to follow even when it's not completely clear where I'm going to lead him. And here we are today, thousands of years later, and in some way, we're all children of Abraham. What an interesting story. I also find it interesting that in Genesis 3, there's a curse, right? The ground is cursed. The humans are cursed. The relationship with God is all cattywampus. That's a very technical theological term, cattywampus. Everything seems to be unraveling. And in Genesis 12, we have no more curse. Now we have blessing. Abram, people have been going east. And now I want you to take blessing west. I want you to take it back to where it began. I want you to do something to make the world better. Can you imagine if Abram's descendants had decided to join that work? We're going to make the world better. And in so many ways, those 3 religions that came from Abram's family have made the world better. And they've also brought a lot of pain and heartache and destruction into the world. And I think Abraham's kids are going to have to learn how to play well with each other. And we're going to have to learn that sometimes our quickest impulse is not the best. Otherwise, Abraham probably should have put us in timeout at some point. You know what I mean? Like, you guys just go sit in the bad chair. You've done it. And yet here we are. We're trying to figure out how to do this together. So I want to offer a few things. As we think about Abraham, as we think about where he was in life, as we think about this call, this sense of call to go, and where are we going? I don't know for sure. Right? This pulling up every stake and everything and relocating. And if you read the rest of his story, we're going to look at a snippet of it in Genesis 22 next week, but if you read the rest of Abram's story, the guy doesn't get it really right a lot or all the time. There's two different sources in Genesis that report that Abram became Abraham, pretended his wife was his sister, but to be fair, she actually kind of was his half-sister, because this is set in eastern Kentucky, apparently, and where I'm from. And he gets in trouble for it, right? He lies about who she is so that he can economically benefit, and it creates all sorts of trouble. Abram messes up. He doesn't get it all right. Like, this is not a story about a guy who God picks Abram because Abram's really going to get it right. No, Abram is going to mess it up. And his kids are going to mess it up. And his kids are going to... And so much the story of Genesis is Abram's kids not getting it all the time. And yet also having these experiences where they're being reminded by God, I'm not giving up on you. We're going to work this out. And so I just want to leave with three maybes today as we move into a time of communion. Just three maybes to think about. Maybe you're here today and you're getting older and what you're thinking about is checking out. So maybe you're close to retirement age and you're thinking, I'm about to retire and I'm going to quit everything. You're not going to see me. I quit everything. I quit showering. I quit everything. Like, I don't have to do anything anymore. And there's a certain amount of, sometimes I talk to people who are getting older in life and they feel like that now I'm on this stage of life, and so what I have to offer a community like this is less, and so we're just going to kick back and just do this thing. Abram was 75. Think about that. A 75-year-old guy has an impulse that something new needs to be brought into the world. Can I tell you that? And sometimes people say this. Well, MCC has a lot of younger people. I'm glad people still think almost 40 is young. That's great for those of us who are in that ballpark. But the reality is, so sometimes people are like, I just need to go somewhere and hang out with people my age. No, MCC desperately needs those of you who are in this stage of your life because you have wisdom, and some of you have time, and some of you have experience, and all those things are desperately needed by people in our community. You have so much to give in a place like this. That to check out or to think that somehow, there's nothing for me to do in the world now because I'm... No. When Abraham was 75, he was just getting going. So if you're 75, you're just getting started. You have not even begun yet. So maybe there are some of us who are thinking about checking out. And what we need to be reminded of today is in a community like this, every stage, every age, everybody is needed to do the work we do in the world and to help us become the community we want to become. All right? Are you with me? Okay. Maybe this is the next maybe. Maybe it's time to embrace the idea of journey. Now, I say this in two ways. One, maybe your whole experience of faith has been, I need certainty, and I need to be staying in the same spot, and I want to hear the same thing. I want to hear what my grandparents heard preached is what I want to hear preached. By the way, we just name this, and I think we have before, but how many of you ever heard, I just want the preacher to tell it like it is? How many of you ever heard that before? False. You don't. What people who say that really want is the preacher to tell it like I see it. Are you with me? Because often when somebody gets up and says, I don't want to be told, how many of you heard this? I don't want to just be told what I want to hear. Have you heard that? And then somebody gets up and says, well, maybe there's a new idea. Heretic! Well, I thought you didn't want to just hear what you all... No. I'm sorry, I misread the situation. You actually do want to be told what you already think is true. You just want to be reinforced, right? So maybe there are some of us in that space, and we're struggling with, gosh, I hear new ideas, I hear new perspectives, I hear new interpretations, and actually they're really not new. You just never heard them before. And maybe you're struggling, and maybe today is a day to say, I'm going to take the first step on a journey, trusting that, look, here's the thing. I'm wrong. I just don't know about what. I just don't know about what. Because when I was in school, when we had substitute teachers, and they would leave the room for some reason, they always left the room. People always left the room. Like, they were always gone. And